watching India Now with me, Ruchi Bhatia. Straight up to the breaking news at the bottom of your screen. The Yes Bank board meeting has concluded. They have informed the exchanges that Yes Bank will be forming a search panel to identify the new CEO. This was, of course, what was expected in that meeting, but it is coming in at a time when the RBI had said that Rana Kapoor's tenure will get over by January 2019, and now we are given to understand that a new search panel has been put in place to form to figure out who the new CEO will be. Let me take it across to my colleague Neha Bothra, who's joining in for more details. Neha, you've been covering all the details with respect to Yes Bank. The board meeting concluded and now the hunt for the new CEO at Yes Bank is on. What are the time frames that we're looking at? How soon can this search panel conclude the hunt for the new CEO?
Indeed, Ruchi, we've been tracking this meeting very closely. In fact, we are told that among the other pieces taken up in the board meeting, most important was the search panel. Who will really comprise the panel and what will be the time frame basis which they have to come upon agreeable MD and CEO who meets the fit and proper criteria for RBI, and more importantly, a CEO that would be endorsed jointly by the Indian promoters, that's Madhu Kapur and Rana Kapoor. To that end, we are given to understand that the search panel will comprise 3 existing board members and 3 experts as well, who will be using their various skills and will be appointing a successor to Rana Kapoor to take over when he steps down in January 2019. But more importantly, Yes Bank, we are given to understand, is looking for an extension as far as Rana Kapoor's stint at Yes Bank is concerned. Remember that the Reserve Bank of India has declined a 3-year extension to Rana Kapoor, making it very clear that Rana Kapoor would have to step down on the 31st of January 2019. However, do remember that Rana Kapoor has been a key hand at Yes Bank. He's a founder promoter. He holds over 4% stake. In fact, much of the good trajectory that Yes Bank today boasts of has been indirectly attributed to Rana Kapoor's leadership. And at this point, perhaps the leadership transition that all investors would insist be seamless is something that perhaps could be a bit on unstable ground, considering that the search panel will take its time to find a successor, beyond which the successor will also need some time to get a hand, to get a pulse on what really Yes Bank is doing on ground. So these are some areas that will have to be looked into by the board. And as far as the board meeting is concerned, we are also given to understand that a couple of key areas revolving around whether Rana Kapoor continues as director on the board of Yes Bank. This is also something that was discussed in the meeting, we are given to understand, because do remember, as we have been telling you over the past few days, the articles of association of Yes Bank clearly indicate that while the promoters can recommend a certain name for the position of director, a whole-time director on the board, we must...
Neha, just stay on with me. I also have the release of Yes Bank. It has said that it was decided that in order to ensure long-term succession plan within Yes Bank, they have appointed Rajat Monga and Pralay Mondal as the executive directors. This is, of course, subject to RBI approval. Let me take that across to Sriram Subramaniam, founder and MD at InGovern. Mr. Sriram, how do you look at this news? Now a search panel has been put in place. What will be the key things that they will be looking at?
I think right now the search panel would necessarily focus on how to sort of get any candidate through the approval process. I think that would be, I think, the best this one. Any candidate that they propose, how would that satisfy RBI? How would that go through the other sort of warring co-promoter, which is Madhu Kapur? And so I think these are the top this one criteria that the search panel would have to go through. And I think also it will have to do the balancing act of finding a candidate who sort of understands his bank, as well as he is not seen as a sort of a protege or candidature nominated by Rana Kapoor. So I think that is a balancing act that they would need to do.
Mr. Parekh, coming to you next, the press release, the notification to the exchanges does mention that insiders at Yes Bank have been appointed on the panel that will form part of the search committee as far as looking for a successor to Rana Kapoor is concerned. Do you think that this rules out rumours that suggested that perhaps the CFO of Yes Bank, that is Rajat Monga, could perhaps be a front runner as far as taking over as the successor to Rana Kapoor is concerned?
It doesn't really rule it out. I think the point is that they want to set up a formal process so there is a sanctity in the process itself. Having said that, of course, I think all people are kind of eligible, and it's kind of an intersection of three sets. One is what promoter wants, one is what the competing promoter wants, and the third is what RBI wants. So the intersection set is going to be quite narrow. So let's see who kind of qualifies. Ideally, I think the search committee should not look at one name; they should look at 3 names or 5 names, so that.
Mr. Parekh, to take the point forward, Madhu Kapur, we are given to understand, wrote a letter to the board stating that Rana Kapoor should be kept out of the process until the search committee finalizes names which can be referred to the Reserve Bank of India in terms of who can succeed his role as MD and CEO. Do you think this is something that the board will seriously consider, considering that Rana Kapoor, although a promoter at Yes Bank, a founder also, do you think that his presence will perhaps derail the process and make it more biased? Do you agree with that view?
Not really, because he is not part of the search committee itself. So correct me if I'm wrong, but he's certainly not part of the search committee, and the committee will look at various names, obviously excluding him. He's the only person in the universe who cannot be appointed because of the RBI directions. And then finally, of course, once both factions do agree, that's why I said it should be a longish list. Once both factions agree, warring factions agree, which itself is going to be a challenge, and they'll probably need some towering personality for both of them to say, okay, we're okay with this, and to make the bank more successful. And then, of course, RBI also needs to okay it. So it's a kind of difficult process. Let's see how it goes.
No, I think I want to come in there because I think Sriram Subramaniam and Sandeep Parekh, the important question remains on another request from the bank board, and this to me is a little perplexing, and Sandeep, I'll quickly let you have a go at it. The board has decided that the Reserve Bank of India be requested for an extension of Mr. Rana Kapoor's tenure up until the 30th of April next year for finalization of audited results, and for an extension of tenure, of course, subject to the approval of RBI, up until 30th September next year for the statutory AGM process to be completed. I mean, this is perplexing. Here you have the central bank that believes Mr. Rana Kapoor can't be given more than 5 months in office, and you're actually asking for, a year's extension. Sandeep Parekh?
Yes. So I think that's almost certainly going to be rejected because, RBI had the option of giving a longer time frame, and the fact that they've given such a short leash means I think RBI wants this to be sorted out really quickly. So having said that, I doubt RBI will want to now backtrack and give a long rope to find a replacement. And I think at the most they might extend by a few days or a few weeks, but I really doubt they'd extend it by several months.
No, I agree with you, and I think the chat that I was having with a board member sometime back was that the 3 big reasons given, the culture of compliance was missing, misgovernance, and of course asset quality classification are some of the big factors. I wonder if they'll change their mind on this. But Maithili, I will come to you and then I will go to Lalitab and Sriram in just a bit. I think the big question, Maithili, is that it looks like you keep talking about these rock star CEOs at banks, private sector banks. It looks like Mr. Rana Kapoor also has a lot of sway over the board. I mean, the board that has already got a letter of rejection from the RBI now wants to approach the RBI once again for a year's extension. There's nothing else that explains this other than the fact that the huge amount of influence that Rana Kapoor is on the board.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. And that, as I said, is true not only of Yes Bank but many of the other private sector banks also. If public sector bank CEOs have very little short tenures, it is the exact opposite in the private sector banks. So the kind of capture of the board that these star CEOs have, that is responsible for the board, as it is in any case in India. Corporate governance and boardroom management, etc. These are all complete misnomers. They're basically an eyewash. And when you have a CEO who's been there for so long, the kind of hold that he has over the board is almost complete. So I'm not surprised if the board has decided to put in another request, even though it actually stands there's absolutely no case at all. Very unlikely that the RBI would agree.
Very unlikely that the RBI would agree. Lalitab, I'll come to you. And there are already two warring factions as far as the Yes Bank is concerned and the appointment of the CEO goes. The Madhu Kapur faction and the Rana Kapoor faction. Is the appointment of executive directors, Rajat Monga and Pralay Mondal, any indication whatsoever which side has the upper hand right now? I know I'm taking this discussion into the realm of speculation, but isn't that all that we're doing after this board meeting?
Hi. I think we all know, the current management is at the upper hand as of now. That is what it seems to me. But very frankly, just going back to this request that the company board has made of giving an extension to Mr. Kapoor. I think this again puts things back on an uncertain kind of a situation where there is a request by the board, and then the central bank or the regulator is going to have a say on that. So again, more uncertainty comes in. It would have been great if something more concrete would have happened today.
No, I agree with you. I think uncertainty is not good for anybody for that to loom large. Sriram, before I come to you, and I'm coming to you in just a minute, Sandeep Parekh, on this larger point, uncertainty looms large, and now it's out in the public domain that the officials at the lower level did clear his clearance, and the denial came from the highest authorities in the RBI. The decision-making people, the people in the capacity of influencing decisions, made a decision to not grant him an extension. Having said that, is the board unnecessarily bargaining this for more uncertainty?
No, I think the board is doing its job, I would think, because certainly 3 months time is short in any case, but given the complexities of two warring factions of promoters, I think board is of course duty bound to seek as much time as they possibly can get to find a replacement. After all, not just is the other two factions warring between promoters, but also just see the fact that nobody sees a second in command right now who could be elevated. So I think there has been no succession planning till now. So I think that makes the task even more difficult.
We saw a similar case happen at Axis, and they had to get Amitabh Chaudhary, who was an external candidate. He was one of the three names that went to RBI, and then RBI took its pick on the most preferred name by the central bank. I'm given to understand by, again, board sources in Yes Bank that there will be a similar exercise that will be followed. Names of three preferential candidates will go to the RBI and they'll take a pick. Sriram, my question is, how likely is it now, or is it almost a given now, that the pick of the candidate will perhaps be from the flock outside?
See, given the fact that there is the other co-promoters who I would think doesn't trust any of the current CXO level who are proteges of Mr. Rana Kapoor, I would think there is a very high likelihood the final choice of candidate would be an external candidate who has some amount of credibility with RBI and with other stakeholders. So I think that is the only candidate who would meet sort of the requirements of all three sort of people who need to approve it, which is the two co-promoters and RBI.
So the two co-promoters and RBI, and it's very certain right now that the two camps are not looking at each other in the eye. It's also very certain that Rana Kapoor has considerable sway for the board to ask for an extension, first till the 30th of April for consolidated results, and then till the 30th of September next year for the statutory AGM process. Meera Sanyal is also joining us on the phone line right here. And Ms. Sanyal, this is a big development. One was expecting the Yes Bank board to take a call on the directive that came in from RBI. They've appointed a search and selection committee. There will be 3 existing board members who will be a part of that committee, and there will be 2 external members. I actually want to know who are the internal members going to be, but we'll come to that in just a bit. What do you make of these developments? On expected lines, this is a script that's being followed. Something found wrong with the current CEO. They've gone in for a search panel, and much like Axis, my own belief is that they will hire a headhunting firm, the works, and then will finalize on a candidate.
Well, I think, Supriya, that would be the correct thing to do. I mean, it is appropriate for the board to appoint a selection panel. If you do want to find the best candidates, then that is the correct way to go about it. I mean, what I think would be interesting is that I think it is as per the norms of the RBI and certainly good governance norms that every CEO should have a succession plan laid out. I mean, I certainly remember when I was in charge of the bank, this is something that we had to submit not just to the RBI but also to the Bank of England. So what is the extant succession plan, firstly, of Yes Bank? I think it would be quite interesting to know whether they had one or they didn't, and if they didn't, why not? Nevertheless, now that they do have a search panel in place, I think that is a good step. They should certainly appoint a headhunting firm and then review both internal and external candidates. But as I think one of your previous panelists was saying, the articles of association of Yes Bank are quite clear, and there's a High Court ruling to that order as well, that both the major co-promoters, that is Madhu Kapur and Rana Kapoor, are to be consulted on who this, who the head should be of the bank. And I certainly hope that the search panel does that, because otherwise there's going to be another, legal and regulatory tangle.
No, that's true. The legal and regulatory tangle around this process is going to have a bearing on the decision that will eventually be made. But Maithili, to come to you, in some sense from now till the end of January, at least till such time that the RBI has given a stricture, and my own sense is that the RBI is not going to go back and accede to the board's requests here. They did not accede. They did not give a stamp of approval to their junior officials' recommendations of letting Ms. Rana Kapoor have another tenure. I don't think this is going to change their mind. That's my thinking, but you're somebody who's been at the RBI. How do you think this request is going to play at the central bank? Because the kind of things that have been written in the letter that was sent to board members, and 3 big pointers, there were charges of misgovernance, there was a charge of very low culture of compliance, and there were incorrect asset quality considerations that were taken. Given those charges, do you believe the RBI can have a rethink?
No, I seriously doubt it, but I just hope the RBI takes a decision quickly, because it's important that there is no uncertainty and the matter is not left pending. So it's important that the RBI, I don't think the RBI is going to change its mind, but I do think that they should inform the decision to the board as quick as possible, so that there's no uncertainty, and markets, investors, everybody knows that this is it. Mr. Rana Kapoor has to go by the 30th of January, and the quicker you kind of speed up on your finding of a selection of your successor, the better.
Okay. Sandeep Parekh, let me come to you. What bearing will Rana Kapoor's continuance have on this selection process? You know, he's an influential CEO. It's never easy to have some influential CEO look over your shoulder as you try and find his replacement. He's at least going to be there up until the end of January, which is a good 4 months. You know, October, November, December and January, which is a good 4 months, and that's the period when the search panel has also to find his replacement. Unlike in Shikha Sharma's case, who was a professional heading the bank, here's Rana Kapoor, who's not just the CEO, but he's also the co-promoter.
Yes, so I mean, if we didn't have any further facts, he would kind of almost definitely choose a successor. But I think we have different facts in this case, which is that there's another substantial shareholder who's also a promoter who does not like him at all. So I think there is kind of, if you look at it, there's a kind of an internal check and balance there. So it's anyway going to be difficult to find a replacement for Rana Kapoor because his chosen one is not going to be immediately selected by the other faction, and of course the other faction has a Bombay High Court ruling saying that please comply with their inter-se agreement, etc., which have been enshrined in the Articles of Association of the bank itself. So I think it's going to be a lot more complicated than any other company, and certainly far more complicated than Axis Bank.
You know, there's some exclusive information that we're willing to break right here on ET Now within minutes from now, and that's information coming in from the Madhu Kapur camp. So as soon as that information is out, I will go to that, because it looks like that camp is also talking. And Sriram, everybody is going to have a, you know, they'll try and extract their pound of flesh for sure. In a case like this, it's a given. It's the next obvious thing to do. Rana Kapoor and Madhu Kapur don't see eye to eye. They've had a very bitter, acrimonious relationship. It's almost a given that they will fight over the next successor. What is that going to mean for the bank's functioning? What will that mean for the bank's operations? I'm not going to ask you the bank's stock, which in any case has taken a lot of beating. But as far as operations and uncertainty is concerned, those questions will counter. Come in.
Sure. This is probably the golden opportunity for the chairman to really show his mettle in that sense. Mr. Ashok Chawla, I'm not sure about his characteristics or traits, but as a chairman of the bank itself, he can now step up leadership of the search committee and ensure that it is seen as a truly independent and truly sort of impartial committee to select the right candidate and do what is right for the bank. And otherwise, this war will destroy wealth for both the co-promoters. It has already destroyed wealth in that sense for all shareholders in the last week or so. And that would be very unfortunate. And so it is up to the chairman of the board, who is in any event a non-independent chairman, to step up to the plate and demonstrate that it can be seen as an impartial and independent process.
Okay, you know, there's breaking news that's coming right now on your screens, and this is an ET Now exclusive. Nayantara Rai has been in touch with the Madhu Kapur camp, and she's getting us exclusive information from that camp. What does Madhu Kapur and her advisors and her lawyers make of today's board meeting, the likely elevation of Rajat Monga, and, you know, also the board seeking an extension on Rana Kapoor's tenure, first up until the 30th of April for results, and then for the AGM up until the 30th of September next year. Very quickly, what is the Madhu Kapur camp telling you?
Supriya, the Madhu Kapur camp is already written in black and white and sent a letter to the board saying that Rana Kapoor should cease being a board member and that will facilitate in finding his successor, the right successor for Rana Kapoor to be the MD and CEO. What I do understand from my sources is that the Madhu Kapur camp is quite clear. They do not want elevation of an insider. They believe that an elevation of an insider will go against whatever it is that the RBI has found fault with. They believe an insider would have been complicit with, would have been privy to, and would have had access to the divergence, for example, that has been noticed. If you look at Rajat Monga, he was the group CFO. He stepped down after the failed QIP, and sources have told me that if in case his name was given as successor or as that for elevation, the Madhu Kapur camp would object to it, citing the very reasons that he had stepped down as a CFO. Yes Bank had a new CFO recently, Mr. Ahuja, coming in.
Right.
So they're against elevation of any insider. It would also seem logical, Supriya, remember these are warring factions, and insider would also be seen close to the Rana Kapoor camp.
Right. Nayantara, just hold that thought, because I have a follow-up question for you very quickly. Madhu Kapur camp's decision will have a bearing, or you know, their influence will have a bearing on the actual selection of the CEO. What sort of a bearing will this have on the extension plea of Rana Kapoor? Does it have a bearing at all? Because the court has very categorically ordered that the two camps need to approve any board member being elevated. on that count.
That's absolutely right. Consent of both the parties are needed for 3 board members, and that does include the function of the MD and CEO. I think in this case, the buck will stop with the Reserve Bank. Whatever Madhu Kapur believes or does not believe, the final word will be with the Reserve Bank if it's indeed convinced that there should be an extension. But that does not mean that Madhu Kapur is not going to make a case for Rana Kapoor's not getting an extension. Like I said, she's already made a case for him to step down, even as a board member of a bank that he had co-founded with her husband.
Just hold that thought right now, because I'm going to get a quick word from Sandeep Parekh before I move out of that story. And Sandeep, this is exclusive information that we're picking up from the Madhu Kapur camp. She's not just against any insider being elevated, any former member being elevated, in this case Rajat Monga, but her camp also seems to raise objections to the board seeking an extension for Rana Kapoor. What sort of a bearing will this objection have? And like Ranantara is pointing out there, a letter has been sent in writing to the board.
So, I mean, this outcome is almost predictable. Yeah, even though it's breaking, it is predictable because she is certainly opposed to Rana Kapoor and his anybody handpicked by him. So I think the only people, as I said earlier, some towering personality from outside seems to be the only option which will work for both sides. Then I think the search is going to be tough for that reason. And then again, just because both of them agree on something doesn't mean that person will be CEO. RBI will take the final call. So it's going to be, many wheels within wheels. And then finally, let's see, hopefully there will be somebody by January. If not, then I think it'll remain headless till they find somebody.
And remaining headless is never great news for a bank. But I think on that note, completely out of time here, we've exhausted all the time that we have on the show. We will continue to track that story at Yes Bank. Thank you very much, Lalita, Meera Sanyal, Sriram Subramaniam, Maithili Busturmat, and of course Sandeep Parekh for joining us on this edition of that special show. We take a quick breather, and there's plenty more that comes up right next.